Use reference angles to find trigonometric ratios. So first, to use reference angles to find trig ratios, you need to know and understand what is a reference angle. A reference angle is a positive acute angle formed by the terminal side of the angle and the closest part of the x-axis. So an acute angle is any angle less than 90 degrees. Anything above that is not acute angle. Okay, so first I'm going to give you two examples to get the concept of reference angles, and then I'm going to get to the lesson. Okay, so first if they give you an example of 150 and told you to find the reference angle, all you need to do is first to sketch the angle you've been given. So we know that 90 degrees is always here, so is 180. And 150 is right between 90 and 180 degrees. So it would be right here. This is your angle. But where is your reference angle? Your reference angle is the closest part of the x-axis. This is your reference angle. But now how do you find it? How do you find the value? You subtract 180 by the angle. So 180 minus 150 is 30 degrees. This is your reference angle. The second example is to find the reference angle of 215. So we know that 180 is here and 270 is here. So 215 should be between those two angles, and it would be right about here. This is your angle, but where is your reference angle? Your reference angle is the one closest to the x-axis. So now how to find the value is you subtract 215 by 180 and you will get 35. This is your reference angle. Now how to use reference angles to find trigonometric ratios. So first, before we start, you need to know that every quadrant has a special place for a trig ratios. So in the first quadrant, all trig ratios are positive. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive. Other than that, everything is negative. In the third quadrant, tan is only positive. In the fourth one, cosine is only positive. Now on the left side, this is a unit circle value, and we will only be learning about 60 degrees, 45 and 30, and how to use their point to find the reference angles of trigonometric ratios. The first example, if they give you sine 150 and told you to use the reference angle to find the trigonometric functions or ratios, the first step you should do is draw or sketch your angle. So we know that 150 is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So since we found our angle, we need to spot our reference angle as well. So we know that the reference angle is the closest part to the x-axis, which should be here. Now that you've done the first part, the second is to subtract 180 by the angle being given, which equals 30 degrees. Now that you've found your reference angle to 150, you should go to your unit circle value and find the answer you've been given. Since we've got 30, we should focus on that part. And we know that cosine is x and sine is y. This is the part of the y. We shouldn't need this. So now you just write sine 30, which is the reference angle, equals to 1 over 2. For the last part, since you know that sine 30 equals 1 over 2, you should write sine 150 equals 1 over 2. It's the same thing. The second example, they've given us cosine 240. So the first step is to always sketch your angle. And we know that 240 is between 180 and 270 degrees, which would be about here. So now that you've got your angle, you need to find your reference angle. The reference angle is the closest part to the x-axis, which means it would be here. Notice how the terminal side of the angle lands on the third quadrant, which means only tangent is positive. The rest of the trigonometric ratios is negative. In this case, cosine is negative. So the second part is you subtract 240 by 180, which will give you 60 degrees. Since you know the reference angle to cosine 240, you should focus that on your unit circle value. So we know that cosine is x, so we should not be focusing on the y part. The next step is to write cosine 60, which is your reference angle, equals 1 over 2. So now that you know that cosine 60 equals 1 over 2, you can easily find the cosine of 240. Cosine 240 equals negative 1 over 2. It's negative because it's on the tangent quadrant, which means everything is negative except tangent. So this is an extra question because in some cases you might not be working with a degree, you might be working with a pi or a radian. So in this case, how to solve it is you just follow every step we did in the previous examples, just add one more step at the very beginning, which is converting radians to degrees. How to convert radians to degrees is you just multiply the numbers you've been given by 180, which means 5 over 6 multiplied by 180, which will give us 150. Now that you've got the angle, you sketch it. 150 would be about here. So this is our angle. Now you should find the reference angle. The reference angle is the closest part to the x-axis, which means it would be here. Now you subtract 180 by 150, which will give us 30 degrees. We need to find tangent. So we know that tangent is y over x. In this case, since we've gotten 30 degrees as a reference angle, in the unit circle value, we should focus on the two parts of the points. This is the y, so y goes first, then the x. So in the calculator, the answer would be square root of 3 over 3. This isn't the final answer. The final answer would be a negative square root of 3 over 3 because tangent isn't in its proper place. It's in the second quadrant, which means sine is only positive on that quadrant. Everything else is just negative. The final answer would be tan 150 equals to negative square root of 3 over 3.